My name is Andrea Newman. On the night of my engagement party, my cousin Liliana Grant staged a drunken scene, secretly took an aphrodisiac, and tearfully begged me to lend her my fiancé, Chandler Lakin, just for one night. Reluctantly, I called on Archer Martin, who had always been devoted to her. Liliana and Archer were already betrothed, and Archer was honorable enough to handle the situation discreetly. But when Liliana woke and found Archer in her bed instead of Chandler, shame and rage consumed her. In an instant, she ended her own life. The blame for her death haunted me, even though Chandler never held me responsible and continued to act as though nothing had changed. For years after, I dedicated myself to caring for Liliana's family, and Chandler would occasionally accompany me in support. I carried the weight of guilt silently, until the night of my own wedding. That night, Chandler betrayed me completely. He poisoned me, abandoned me among beggars, and forced them to assault me. Liliana suffered the same humiliation at Christmas. Now it's your turn to atone for her, he sneered. I was tortured to death, along with my unborn child. Then I woke. I was back, at the engagement party, the night Liliana cried at my feet, pleading for Chandler. Liliana clung to my gown, sobbing, Andrea, just for tonight, please. Won't you let him help me? I sighed, torn between compassion and propriety. Liliana, Chandler and I are engaged. If you do this, how could you ever marry someone else? Chandler scowled at her. I'm your sister's fiancé. This behavior is shameful, he snapped, pushing her away and taking my arm as he turned to leave. Seeing Liliana collapse in despair, I made a decision. I called Archer, knowing he had always admired her and could intervene discreetly. But when Liliana awoke beside him, her shame and anger overwhelmed her. She blamed me for her ruined life and, in a moment of despair, took her own life. Her death left an indelible shadow on my heart. I convinced myself I had caused it and threw myself into caring for her family. Chandler's company never wavered, his presence masking the darkness that hid behind his charming smile. The night of my wedding proved the truth. Chandler had long plotted revenge, driven by a past affair with Liliana. Reading her diary revealed that she had been his first love, obsessively jealous of me and copying my every move. She thought imitating me could replace me. In my previous life, I had given in repeatedly, ultimately losing everything. This time, I vowed to change. As the engagement party unfolded again, I excused myself early, leaving Liliana to act out her usual charade. True to form, she pretended to be drunk and reached desperately for Chandler. But this time, he wasn't there. I ordered a servant to summon Archer, claiming I was worried about Liliana and needed his help to search for her. As I staged my frantic search, news of Liliana and Chandler's disappearance spread. Archer immediately mobilized his men, turning the mansion upside down in search of her. Only one room remained unchecked, my own bridal chamber. Hesitant, the guests lingered at the door. I rushed forward, flinging it open. From inside came a scream and a furious roar. Shocked, I realized what I had feared. Chandler was in the room with Liliana, in the midst of their betrayal. I staggered back, fainting, and Archer caught me just in time. He glared at Chandler, his unspoken threat clear. Even as the second son of the powerful Martin family, Archer's authority made everyone pause. With his support, I was led away, leaving Chandler to face consequences I would make sure he could never escape. When I woke again, evening had already fallen. My parents, Jesse and Phoebe Newman, Liliana's mother Isabel Grant, and members of the Lakin and Martin families were all gathered. Sienna Lakin, Chandler's mother, stepped forward quickly, concern etched on her face. Andrea, you're finally awake. I ignored her, throwing myself into Phoebe's arms and sobbing. Anyone witnessing it would have thought I was the wronged, pitiful one. Sienna awkwardly withdrew, offering softly, Andrea, what's done is done. Maybe Liliana could marry Chandler as a concubine. You'd still be his wife. Jesse's expression hardened immediately. Are you serious? You want my daughter to marry Chandler too? Over my dead body. The Martin family exchanged grim looks. The suggestion to make Archer's fiancée into Chandler's concubine was outrageous, a total affront to their honor. Naturally, Liliana resisted. She had worked hard to reach Chandler's level. Becoming a concubine was unthinkable. Tears streaming, she clung to Chandler. Andrea, if you can forgive him, I'll do it. Just don't hate him because of me. Isabel sobbed beside her. Andrea, if you don't let her go, she truly has no way out. Shut up. Look at the shame your daughter has brought. And you, daring to cry about it. Jesse barked. Normally lenient toward Isabel because of her widowhood, he felt utterly humiliated that she would encourage such behavior. Chandler, seeing Liliana in tears, felt something he mistook for heartbreak. I've already agreed to marry you. Why must you push Liliana to desperation? His father's hand struck him across the face. Silence. You have no say in this. Jesse glared at the pair. Save your performance. Andrea will never marry into your family. Chandler seethed. In this life, I'll marry no one but Liliana. If you love Andrea so much, father, marry her yourself. From the sidelines, Alex Martin sneered. Is this really how the Lakin family raises their children? He turned to Jesse. Both our families are victims here. Why not form a marriage alliance? Jesse's disbelief was palpable. Do you think my daughter is some commodity? Alex smiled. Not at all. But Andrea is the real victim. How could she marry in the future if this scandal spreads? I spoke calmly, surprising everyone. And what benefit is there for me in forming a marriage alliance with your family? Alex's face brightened. He had long been frustrated with Liliana's narrow-mindedness and calculating ways. Archer's devotion had forced them to tolerate her, but now seeing me assert myself, he was pleased. Here's what I can promise, Alex said. The family assets will be divided. Upon your marriage, I'll go to the notary and register all property and deeds. My sons get 40% each. The remaining 20% is set aside for retirement. He glanced disdainfully at Chandler. The Martin family values propriety. Archer would never create a scandal like being entangled with his fiancé's cousin. And after marriage, all assets will be registered under your name. Gasps filled the room. The Martin family was essentially handing me the entire fortune. Only Chandler, Liliana, and Isabel looked grim. I knew from my previous life that Archer, even without love, would treat me fairly and never harm me. With the knowledge I now had, I might not even need to depend on him to survive. But the social climate was harsh, and if I refused, my parents would face gossip and shame. All right, I'll consider it, I said. Archer's parents beamed, but Liliana could no longer contain herself.
What?
That's not what you promised. You said only 30% of the assets and nothing about registering them in my name. Alex frowned. We've supported you fully since your engagement to Archer. I made this decision because I feared you'd squander the fortune. Andrea has the background and grace I prefer. I'm willing to give her everything. What's wrong with that? Liliana was speechless, tearfully turning to Archer. Are you just going to let them bully your fiancé? Archer's gaze was cold. I am no longer your fiancé, Miss Grant. She collapsed into Chandler's arms, sobbing. Watching the families finalize the marriage arrangements so efficiently, Chandler's face darkened. He shoved Liliana aside and stormed toward me. Andrea, you're my fiancé, and you're talking about marrying someone else? Have you considered my feelings at all? I looked up at him calmly, curiosity glinting in my eyes.
What do you mean by that?
When you were with Liliana at the engagement party, did my feelings ever cross your mind? Before judging others, you should first control yourself. Chandler's face burned red with anger. Fine, Andrea. Don't regret this, he spat, storming off with Liliana in tow. Liliana shot me a triumphant glance, mouthing, I won. I couldn't help but smirk. Did she truly believe marrying into the Lakin family guaranteed happiness? How could someone like Chandler ever love anyone sincerely? If he had truly cared for Liliana, he would have ended our engagement long before and married her openly. Yet he had not. For 6 months before our engagement, he had every opportunity to be with her legitimately, but chose instead to disgrace her publicly at our engagement party. Liliana, blind to the truth, thought that by clinging to Chandler, she would secure wealth and glory. She was sorely mistaken. The Lakin family were merchants, and for them, profit outweighed everything. The saying, merchants value profit above all, was no exaggeration. After the chaos, Phoebe took my hand gently. Andrea, our family has means. Why insist on marriage? I glanced at my parents, noting the gray at their temples, and thought of my previous life, how they had suffered and died in depression after my demise. In this life, I would protect them. Dad, I said, determination in my voice, by that horse ranch in the eastern suburbs. Though Jesse seemed puzzled, he smiled. All right, if my little princess wants it, it's yours. No, I corrected, smiling. This is my gift to you. Phoebe tapped my nose playfully. Who gives gifts like that? You'll see, I said with a teasing grin. Later, I arranged to meet Archer privately for dinner. There were things he deserved to know. Seated across from him, I looked him in the eye. I want to join the independence movement. Archer blinked, stunned. What? I want to join the independence movement. I repeated clearly. You know the situation in the colonies. I want to do something for this newborn land. I came to tell you directly. If this affects your marriage proposal, I can decline it. I don't mind, he interrupted calmly. Not only do I not mind, I'll join you. I hesitated, but participating could be life-threatening. You. He smiled, unwavering. Freedom has always demanded sacrifice. I am not afraid. He explained further. My father wants the family assets registered in the wife's name because he knows I may not always be here. I am prepared for sacrifices. I have never forgotten those suffering under colonial rule. Do you know what it feels like, he continued, to watch your compatriots oppressed and be powerless to help? I nodded solemnly, understanding completely. He leaned closer, sharing the details of his work. We're spreading a new ideology. It's a difficult, prolonged struggle. If you're willing to join, I can introduce you to my superior. I smiled and extended my hand. Then I'll await your guidance. He grasped my hand firmly. We're looking forward to having you with us. From that moment, my bond with Archer deepened. With his superior's approval, he brought me to their secret meeting place. Under his guidance, I officially became part of the movement, ready to fight shoulder to shoulder for freedom and independence. When Jesse and Phoebe learned of my decision, they worried deeply. Phoebe's eyes welled with tears. Andrea, it's not that I don't love our country, but you're my only daughter. I can't bear to let you go. Jesse quietly wiped his eyes, turning away, but finally nodded. That you serve your country is our honor. No matter what, we are proud of you. I hugged them tightly, a wave of determination surging through me. Dad, Mom, I promise, I will protect myself. A week later, I agreed to the marriage between Archer and Alex's family. Alex was thrilled and personally accompanied Archer to help me shop for wedding supplies. You have no idea how long I've admired Andrea, Alex said excitedly. She's smart, beautiful, graceful. Treat her well, or I won't forgive you. I was swinging on the garden swing when Archer relayed this to me. I smiled. Why does your father like me so much? He scratched his head, sheepishly chuckling. Our family comes from a long line of military men. Only my generation started valuing education and refinement. Father always hoped we'd marry cultured wives. My older brother's wife comes from a military family, so your father's dream has finally come true? I teased. Archer nodded. Then I asked seriously, and you? What about your dream? Any regrets about not marrying Liliana? He paused. My dream is for the country to be peaceful and prosperous. Regret? Not really. I never truly liked Liliana. I treated her well because she was my fiancée, nothing more. I nodded. That's good. Otherwise, I'd feel guilty. He smiled. No need for guilt. In fact, I should be grateful. My mother says marrying me above my station is fortunate, so you should feel lucky to marry me. You've been raised well, I said sincerely. We found time to take our wedding photos, and Alex personally chose our wedding date. Archer and I had no objections. Our mission came first. Both families were incredibly busy, and the wedding was attended by high-ranking officials and dignitaries, making it a grand affair. Alex even bought us a villa near my parents' house. Andrea, you're your parents' only child. This house is a gift to you, so you can stay close to them after marriage, he explained. I accepted with a smile. Thank you. Alex wanted to give me all his savings as well, but I stopped him. This is your retirement money. How could we take it? Archer's sister-in-law laughed. That's just how he is. When I married Christmas, he offered me all his savings too. The whole family burst into laughter. That night, Archer left on a mission. I stayed home, anxious and sleepless. The next day brought devastating news. He had been captured and imprisoned. Liliana came specifically to mock me. So, what if you married Archer? What's the point of pleasing him? On your wedding night, your husband gets captured. You're bad luck. You'll end up a widow. I slapped her across the face. Say that again, and I'll tear your mouth apart. Liliana stared in shock. You dare hit me? Aren't you afraid the Lakin family will come after you? I looked at her with contempt. The Lakin family won't go against the Martin and Newman families just for you. Indeed, Liliana never became Chandler's wife. His parents despised her actions. When Chandler argued with them, his father warned, "You're not my only son. If you don't want the inheritance, others will take it." Chandler's mother echoed him. "No matter which son inherits, my position won't change. If you're incapable, we can adopt a son instead." That single statement destroyed Chandler's last hope. Though Chandler wasn't promiscuous in the usual sense, he had several concubines. Some kept children nearby, most were raised by his mother. Being the eldest son didn't guarantee him power. To compete for inheritance, he had to marry well. But after the scandal at our engagement, few women from respected families would marry him. Ultimately, he married Lucia Ramirez of the Ramirez family. She was extremely jealous and quickly expelled Liliana from their household. Liliana came crying to Chandler for help, but he dared not challenge the Ramirez family and could only turn her away. With her schemes failing and seeing me thriving, Liliana grew increasingly resentful and began plotting against me. I turned to Liliana with a cool glance. "Instead of meddling here, you do better to focus on winning your own battles." As she raised her hand to strike, Alex intervened. "In my house, you dare harm my family? Do you think I'm dead?" Archer's mother, Emily Martin, guided me to a side seat. "The item you requested has been delivered. Don't worry, it'll be back soon." Only then did I feel some relief. What I had sent out was the horse ranch I had Jesse purchase. My original intention had been to help him prosper. In my previous life, that same ranch had made Chandler wealthy after my death. I never expected it would prove useful now. Alex had Liliana thrown out. Before leaving, he sent word to Lucia Ramirez, "Ensure your household is in order." Liliana's bravado vanished. She knelt, desperately pleading for her life, but Alex gave her a cold glare and had her dragged away. Meanwhile, the streets erupted in protest. Citizens marched, shouting demands for the release of the Patriots, led by my husband. I led the crowds, banners in hand, calling out, "Fight for freedom! Defend our rights! Release Archer and the other Patriots! Restore liberty to America!" The slogan struck deep. Students boycotted classes, workers went on strike, and countless patriots united as one. The colonial authorities tried every measure to suppress us, but for everyone they defeated, thousands more rose. "You can kill my body, but you cannot crush my desire for freedom. Truth cannot be silenced." Through our efforts, Archer and the others were finally released. A government official confronted me, furious. "Andrea, do you understand what you're doing?" I met his gaze steadily. "Fighting for freedom." He sagged in defeat. "This country is finished." I shook my head. "No, it will endure. Our people will achieve independence and freedom." Archer emerged relatively unharmed, thanks to the Martin family's influence, though the other patriots bore numerous wounds. While tending to them, I continued mobilizing citizens, spreading the ideals of independence. For nearly half a year, our movement gained momentum. The concept of freedom had taken root. Even street children understood what we were fighting for. Our efforts were awakening the nation. That same year, I became pregnant. Though everyone urged me to rest, I could not remain idle. Using my status, I carried messages for the patriot groups, repeatedly arrested and released. Many had already perished at the hands of the colonizers, and the people's anger grew, fueling efforts to overthrow their rule. The authorities, mindful of public opinion, could not directly harm me, so they targeted our families instead. Jesse, Phoebe, Alex, and Emily faced repeated assassination attempts. Homes of those involved in the movement were attacked. Archer and I understood this was a warning. They could not kill us, so they aimed at our loved ones. Our organization moved our relatives to safe locations. There, I gave birth to our first child, Frederick Martin. Both Archer and I were pleased. The name symbolized freedom. I held little Frederick close, teaching him the value of liberty and love for our country. He later grew into an exceptional patriot. When the war broke out, Archer and I threw ourselves into the fight without hesitation. On the battlefield, I witnessed countless compatriots fall, never to rise again. I thought of their families, sons, husbands, fathers. I worked in the rear, tending to the wounded. Once, I watched a 17-year-old boy die, clutching a piece of candy, a gift from his sister. He had treasured it, never eating it, staring at it longingly when missing home. He had once asked me, "Andrea, when will this war end? I want to see my sister grow up." I could not bring myself to tell him she had also died in another battle, only 15 years old. I held his hand and said, Rest peacefully. When you awaken, our country will be a new nation, full of freedom. I never expected to see Lucia on the battlefield. She was brought in, unconscious, her right hand mangled beyond recognition from an explosion. Several military doctors, and I rushed to treat her. Given the limited medical resources, the only option was amputation. I held her steady while a nurse used a red-hot iron saw to remove her entire arm. Lucia regained consciousness multiple times from the excruciating pain, only to pass out again, yet she didn't utter a single sound. When she finally woke fully and saw me, the first words she spoke were, "I won't be able to return to the front lines, will I?" I tried to comfort her, pointing to her empty sleeve. "You can stay here in the rear, helping care for the wounded." She interrupted, her tone calm. "No need to comfort me. Compared to the soldiers who've died, I'm lucky, aren't I?" I lowered my head in silence. She truly was fortunate. Then she asked unexpectedly, "Do you know which unit we're fighting against?" "The Colonial Army," I replied. "And who's leading them?" she pressed. I shook my head. My duties kept me in the rear, far from the front lines. Lucia smiled faintly. "Chandler." The name hit me like a blow. How could it be him? Why would he? "He defected to the enemy the day after their forces landed," Lucia said. I had to sit for a moment to process. "And you?" I finally asked. She smiled faintly. "Since Alex expelled Liliana, Chandler and I went our separate ways." I hesitated. "And Liliana? What about her?" Lucia laughed coldly. "You still care about her? While your husband fights for freedom, Liliana became a colonial officer's mistress." I froze. Liliana, a colonial officer's mistress? Was she forced? I asked. "No," Lucia replied. "She did it willingly. That's how Chandler managed to secure a minor position with the enemy." I struggled to comprehend it. How could they betray their own people? Lucia patted me gently with her remaining hand. "Everyone has their own path. Don't dwell on it." I took a deep breath, focusing. This was a battlefield, and the soldiers needed all the help they could get. Stretcher after stretcher came in. We barely had time to rest. Even Lucia worked tirelessly, comforting the wounded. The battle raged for a month. We set out with 1,500 men and returned with fewer than 500, but we had won. On the day the enemy retreated, Archer was brought in on a stretcher, shot in the shoulder by Chandler. Had he not reacted quickly, the bullet would have struck his heart. He was wheeled in for surgery while I waited outside, heart pounding. Soon the nurse emerged. The bullet had been removed. He just needed to recover. I exhaled in relief. When we returned home, Archer lifted me onto his horse. "The war is almost over. Our general will lead us to victory," he said. Held in his arms, I nodded. Yes, we would triumph. At our front door, our parents waited anxiously with Frederick. Tears filled their eyes as they saw us safe. Alex patted Archer's shoulder. "You finally came home." Emily and Phoebe held my hands, faces streaked with tears. "Andrea, you've lost so much weight." Frederick tugged at Archer, babbling for attention. Our family was finally reunited. 8 months later, the war ended in final victory. During that period, Archer and I had another son and a daughter. Our second son was named Pax, and our little daughter. Since the fighting had lessened, I allowed Hope to remain at the military camp. She spent her time there, and the first word she learned was freedom. That Christmas, when Hope turned 10, the War of Independence finally came to an end. I held the hands of our 2 sons while Archer carried our daughter, and together we witnessed the birth of a new nation in the capital. In front of the congressional building stood the warriors who had fought alongside us, some missing legs, some missing arms, others bearing incomplete bodies. They leaned on one another, standing proud in the square, sharing in the joy they had fought so hard to achieve. Below, thousands of citizens celebrated the arrival of freedom and independence. Among them were families who had lost sons, husbands, and fathers, some who had sacrificed everything on the battlefield. Many comrades had fallen, leaving no complete remains behind. They remained forever on the fields where their lives had shone brightest. Archer's hands and feet, injured early in the war, still ached with every rainfall. Every time it rained, our 3 children would dutifully massage his legs and arms. After the victory, we invited Lucia to move in with us. At first, she refused, stating, "You 2 are doing fine. What's the point of me moving in?" But Hope clung to her arm and looked up with those irresistible eyes. Lucia couldn't refuse. The home Alex and Emily had prepared for us had been destroyed during the war, so Archer, our sons, and our fathers eagerly set about rebuilding it, working together with infectious enthusiasm. Alex, ever blunt and rough, handled the physical labor while joking, "I've been idle most of my life. Now I finally get some exercise." Emily chased him from the makeshift kitchen, ladle in hand, scolding, "Stop joking and work. After this, you still need to chop firewood." Watching them bicker and play, tears welled in my eyes. It was such a simple, wonderful moment. Lucia rolled her eyes at me. "Why are you crying?" I smiled. "What? Am I not allowed to cry?" She smirked. "I have serious business. Chandler and Liliana have been arrested. Want to go see them? After all, you're Liliana's only remaining family." I sighed. We were sisters once. I should at least see her off. Lucia raised an eyebrow. "That sister of yours is no simple matter. I'll come with you." I teased. "Worried about me now?" She replied, "I can't be bothered to argue." We applied to the government for a prison visit, which was quickly approved. When we arrived, Liliana huddled in a corner, disheveled and filthy. At my approach, she immediately sat up straight. "What are you here for? To laugh at me?" She noticed Lucia and commented, "Oh wow, you came too? Where's your right hand?" Lucia's glare froze her. "Enough. I don't waste time on your petty games. Want to make me angry? You're not worth it." She looked Liliana over and added, "Before worrying about me, worry about yourself." Liliana sneered. "Worry about myself? I've enjoyed life while you struggled for 8 years. I have no regrets. I was their commanding officer's favorite. How could anyone compare to me?" Lucia snorted. "If you were so cherished, why weren't you evacuated with them? If I loved someone, I wouldn't leave her to suffer. You were nothing but a plaything, a woman who degraded herself willingly. There's nothing to be proud of." Liliana clutched the bars, protesting hoarsely. "I was his beloved, his precious darling." Lucia had already pulled me away, but I glanced at Chandler. In my previous life, I had truly loved him. Now, hatred boiled over. He looked at me calmly and asked, "If I hadn't slept with Liliana that day, would you have loved me?" I laughed. "After all these years, is romance all you've got left in that brain of yours?" Chandler hung his head, too ashamed to speak further. Lucia sighed at him. "We were married once. Though it wasn't meant to be, I still feel sorry for you. If you hadn't betrayed your country, perhaps you wouldn't be here today. All that has happened is your own doing." I added with sarcasm, "You fell for Liliana because of a diary. Do you know what? That diary, she copied it from me. You saw me in it, yet you pushed me toward someone else. How does that feel? Does it hurt? A traitor like you deserves nothing but misery and regret." Chandler shouted, "Impossible. You're lying. You're lying." Lucia smiled. "Whether I'm lying or not, you could have asked Liliana, couldn't you? Oh wait, you won't see her again. Looks like you'll die with that question unanswered." As we left, she kept turning back to mock Chandler. "Hey, what's the rush? Let me say a few more things." I laughed. "Visiting hours are over." Lucia pulled her hand away from mine in mild annoyance, muttering, "All this grabbing and pulling, what kind of behavior is that?" I poked her. "What's it to you?" She leaned closer, curiosity shining in her eyes. "But is that diary really yours? Can I take a look?" I pushed her away playfully. "All this grabbing and pulling, what kind of behavior is that?" Her eyes widened. "Hey, Andrea, don't talk nonsense. When did I ever grab or pull you?" I ignored her and kept walking. "Then explain why everyone says you get jealous every Christmas." She hurried to catch up, chuckling. "Oh, that's just my dad spreading rumors because he worried I'd get taken advantage of. Plus, I have a temper, so that's how it started. Now, come on, let me see your diary. We've been through life and death together. Just let me have a look." I couldn't resist her persistence and finally handed over the diary. From then on, whenever she had free time, she would cradle the diary and cuddle Hope, having Hope read it aloud to her. Day after day, through elementary and middle school, they read together until Hope could recite the entire diary by heart. One day, Hope held the worn, well-thumbed diary and asked Lucia, "You've been reading this for so many years. Don't you get tired of it?" Lucia put on her reading glasses, carefully turning a page.
"No."
Archer, with a hint of jealousy, interjected, "That's my wife's diary." Lucia shot him a sharp look. I can't be bothered with you. Years passed. Frederick and Pax both left for school, one to the military, the other into research. I asked Hope, "What do you want to do?" Without hesitation, she replied, "Be a doctor." More years rolled on. Frederick and Pax both married, and we found ourselves caring for our grandson, Miles Martin. Lucia held Miles, her eyes soft and adoring. "Miles, you must read lots of books when you grow up and be as learned as your grandmother." It was then I finally realized Lucia hadn't really loved the diary itself. She wanted to experience what it would have been like to go to school, to read and learn. Though Archer and Lucia usually bickered, he chimed in proudly, "That's right. My wife is the most learned person there is." I laughed. All right, the children of the future will all be smarter than us. Later, Lucia lost interest in arguing with Archer. He began using a cane and I put on reading glasses. Together, we stood at the elementary school entrance, watching lively children rush out of the school gates. Miles ran up and threw his arms around my legs. "Grandma, the teacher told us about the Revolutionary War today." I smiled and lifted his backpack. "Really? What did she say?" He exclaimed. "She talked about how Grandpa led troops into battle. It was so cool. I want to lead troops too." Archer tapped him gently on the back of the head. "Silly boy. This country we have now, we fought tooth and nail for it. And with such a free and prosperous nation, you still want to go to war." Miles buried his head against Lucia for comfort. She hugged him tightly, turning to me with a playful complaint about Archer.